It is my pleasure to invite into the studio the ever beautiful. Let's play a Recover commercial first.
Recover Personal Injury Attorneys, helping injured people get what they deserve. Did you know that insurance companies have lawyers that represent their interests? Before signing and accepting any settlement, know your rights. Call us today for a free consultation at 924-9999. That's 924-9999. Recover. Your personal injury attorneys are on standby to assist.
All right, folks, big shout out to Recover. By the way, someone said F-Wing is for trusted prisoners. They can get groceries and can cook their own food. What a mess. We're not putting him on F-Wing. Anyway, it is my pleasure to welcome the beautiful Tiz Romano from Recover. Good morning, Tiz.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Girl, you always get the most interesting conversations when you come on the show.
Awesome.
I am sure that you're always in the background going, oh my gosh, what is Sandy? Who is Sandy on to today? But welcome to the program. Really appreciate you being here. Everybody's sending me the down low and the F-Wing. We'll talk about that later because we got some McKeevan news that we'll be bringing you guys. But Tiz, how have you been? We haven't seen you in a little bit.
Yeah, been really busy.
Yeah.
And just wrapping things up to go on a little vacation. So looking forward to that little break.
Beautiful. Well, enjoy your holiday and your vacation. Now, you guys come on the program. You are, personal injury attorneys with over 50 years of combined experience. You know what you're doing, but you come on the program to educate us and to, give us a little bit of information so that we can learn what our rights are. And, Tiz, I'm always surprised. Are you often shocked that a lot of people here in the Cayman Islands simply don't know their rights and what they're entitled to?
Yes. Yes and no. Like if people don't have access to a lawyer or a consultation, how do you expect them to know? It's really hard.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have the means to access justice. So that's why we're here. We want to educate. We want to inform. We're here to answer questions. And of course, we offer free consultation. So if you're not sure, if something happened to you and you want to know if you have any rights or any legal action, we're always here, just a phone call away.
Absolutely beautiful. So today we're going to focus a little bit on the concept or around the topic of slip, trips, and falls. So let's go ahead and talk about how prevalent is this? Is this something that happens, quite often? And it's just that people don't necessarily know what their rights are?
These types of accidents happen daily, everywhere in the world, not just here. And it's really important to, figure out the circumstances around these types of injuries or accidents and see if you have any rights to make a claim. So it's not always the case just because you fall down that you can go ahead and sue someone. It really depends on fact-specific scenario. And we can go through some of those examples so that you have a better understanding.
Yes. Recently, there was a case that was in the news that we covered about a lady who fell in a local retail store on a grape or grapes or whatever. And I was really surprised that people in the comment section who were like, oh, what's the big deal? She fell in a grape. Oh, she must be a foreigner. She must be an American trying to get a whole bag of money out of this company. So even the attitude of people seems to be very, very different when it comes to them understanding their rights and knowing that, because you slip and fall doesn't mean that it wasn't a serious situation or you don't have, medical expenses and bills and, all these things piling up, and that you also may have some legal recourse and you may have some rights. So, what's the basic, how do you explain this to people who think that this is a joke if you slip and fall? And they're like, oh, well, what's the big deal?
So it is a big deal because even if somebody's coming onto your property, your house, your yard, if something is dangerous and you know about it and you didn't fix it, you're responsible. So, every property owner has a duty of care to ensure that their property is safe. And so if somebody's injured on property due to somebody's inability to make sure that their premises is safe, then they will be likely liable for the person's injuries, right? So this is why it's so important. Everyone has to make sure, especially businesses, that they take reasonable steps to make sure that their building, their site, their store, their commercial property is safe at all times.
Yeah.
So that we can avoid these types of accidents from happening in the first place.
And a lot of these companies also have specific liability insurance for this purpose, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about premise liability. What is it?
So that's when, an incident happens on your property and somebody's injured, and you as the property owner are responsible for their injuries if you failed to make sure that the premises was safe, or if you could have done something better to remedy the situation and prevent that from happening. You'll be found responsible.
Very good. And so it seems like even in that case that was reported, there were efforts made to kind of reach out to, the company and say, hey, this incident happened. I'm, raking up some bills. Should people do that when they first get injured?
That's a great point. So the first thing when something like that happens is to report it to, in this instance, the store, right? So yes. The store should have an incident report, and they should, start an investigation as to why this happened, right? In that particular situation where somebody fell on a grape, there's a lot of factors that play into that as to, what type of shoes that person was wearing, or how long had that grape been on the floor? When was the last time the store did a general sweep and an inspection of their floors to make sure that they were clear and nothing was on them, nothing was wet, all of that stuff. So there's a lot of factors that go into that, and every case is different.
All right. So property owners having to take reasonable steps to inspect their property and remove or repair any potential hazards. And of course, that's one of the reasons why, even if they're mopping up an area, one reasonable thing for property owners to do is to ensure that they put up a sign saying slippery when wet, careful or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So all of those factors, whether there was signage, whether there was warnings, they all play into each specific case.
Yep. Very good. All right. So there's types of premises liability. Let's break this down a little bit. What are some of these?
We'll go through like the most common types of injuries and falls that we see on a daily basis. And the first obvious one that comes to mind is water on the floor, right? And that could happen to anywhere, at your home, outside your home. A lot of times when there's sprinklers on, automatic sprinklers that go throughout the day, the night, there's pools of water that accumulate. And if there's like a little crevice in the pavement, then that water is just sitting there, waiting for an accident to happen. Stairs, water on stairs is a really dangerous one. And also, depending on the type of pavement the water is on, could make it even extra slippery, right? So wet floors are a huge one, and especially in restaurants, grocery stores, places where malls, places where a lot of people are invited to come on the premises. Those property owners have to, make sure that they have systems in place to prevent these types of things from happening.
Right. And another type of hazard, anything really, cords, just floors that are not properly maintained, or debris or anything that's in the way that could mean that somebody's going to trip and fall.
Yeah. So this specific photo is showing somebody tripping on, looks like a warehouse floor where there was something, an obstacle in the way. And we see a lot of this type of stuff happen at work, people's jobs, where there's machinery or something that, there's a better way of putting that piece of object or material or cord. And, if the company is not aware of these things, they should be aware of these things, because they can fix it and prevent people from injuring themselves. But at the same time, the employees themselves, they're working in these areas every day, day in and day out. So they also have to be careful, and they would know, like, okay, I know this workspace is dangerous because I saw, something happen here before. Let me see if I can try to avoid this so that no one gets hurt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, not only do the owners of the business have a responsibility to ensure that this sort of stuff, floors are being kept clean and free of debris, and there's no spillage or anything else that could be a hazard to their guests, but also the employees that work for that person?
So as an employee, as a person, you have to be aware of your surroundings, and you have to, pay attention, right? Because a lot of the times people are held contributory negligent. And we talked about this on a previous show about, how what your behavior does can affect the outcome of your case as well, right? A lot of the times courts will assign a percentage of responsibility on the actual person who got hurt for not looking where they're going, for, not wearing the proper safety equipment, stuff like that. And so a lot of this really comes down to, with respect to injuries in the workplace, it comes down to how were you trained? What type of training was given to you from your employer in the beginning? Because those types of situations or scenarios should be covered as part of your safety training at work.
Okay. All right. We've got a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandy, and good morning to your guest.
Good morning.
Just a quick question. If you hire somebody like a casual labor to come and paint a room in your house and they fall off the step ladder, is that, do you need to have a contract where you spell out who is liable, or is that something that let's say the painter, a casual laborer, can come back to you for compensation?
Interesting question. So again, it's very fact specific. Sometimes if you're hiring a company or a person to come in, they should have their own insurance cover in cases of liability accidents like this. Right. But if, for instance, you're inviting someone into your home and they fall off a ladder that was or they fall at your premises because of something that you left out or something like that, then you should have your own homeowner liability insurance that would cover that. So with somebody working at your house, a little bit different. It depends on those specific facts. It also depends on the ladder, like were they allowed to use, how tall was the ladder? Were they allowed to use that type of ladder for the job that was getting done? All that kind of stuff. Was somebody spotting them? Was there a harness? All these factors play in.
Yes.
So it's not a really easy question.
So it's not as straightforward because there's so many questions. And this is why, again, this is where lawyers come in. I saw somebody the other day when we recommended, for example, the young man who recently lost his life, that maybe his family should speak to attorneys to see whether or not a wrongful death claim might be possible. Someone said, "Oh, I only see lawyers getting rich here," but lawyers have, they're professionally trained folks, and they have understanding and they know the law, and they know what questions to be asking. And in any given scenario, they also know what can be, twist a case in one way or another. So it's not just a question of, did he slip and fall on your premise? It's like, what caused him to slip and fall on your premise? And who, if there was any fault to be assigned, who was actually responsible for that? So did he slip and fall because he used the wrong ladder, or, he was clumsy or whatever? Or did he slip and fall because your floor, had something on it, or your dog ran by and tipped over the ladder while he was on it, and then he slipped and fell? So, it's always when Tiz says that it's very factually, fact specific, what she means is every bit of information that you have, and this is when you meet with, people like Tiz at Recover, they really delve into asking you some deeper questions, because they need to know the most minute things have turned a case in a completely different direction. And that is why it's important. And that's why I say, get the experts on it. You guys know that Broadhurst assisted me in just by way of an example, in my lawsuit with John Felder, and the entire case got essentially thrown out. And it was a little piece of information of when did they serve you those documents. One little piece of information made a world of difference. And it was a big difference because over $100,000 I didn't have to find to pay this fraudster. Hire lawyers. It's going to be worth it. So, I know that the common person thinks, oh no, this is something I can handle on my own and I don't have to think about it. But take it from me, honey chill. Dean says it's very important. I see men in construction sites wearing flip-flops. We talked about contributor negligence before, and how sometimes there are things that an injured party can do that contributes to the degree of their injuries, or even the fact that they got injured at all. So if someone is working a construction site and they're wearing flip-flops as opposed to proper steel toe construction boots, and something falls on their toe, you might have a court deciding, the degree of your contributing negligence is 100% and you get nothing. Because had you had on the proper steel toe boots that you should be wearing at a construction site, you wouldn't have mashed your toe and end up having to have it amputated. The devil's in the details, folks, especially when it comes to law. Trust and believe. So, Tiz, people also have injuries from falling objects. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, like, classic scenario, you're at the store and you're reaching up for something on the shelf above you, and because of the way that it was stacked, it wasn't stacked safe enough. And so when you pull something, it all falls on top of you and you get injured, right? I've had that type of case before. And again, very fact specific, but documenting this type of stuff and getting photos of exactly what happened at the time is very, very important, because it'll help to tell the story later on.
Wow. So fascinating. Okay. All right. We've got a comment here from Scott. Scott said the scenario the caller was asking about that caused the painter is doing a cash job on the side and has no insurance. So yes, the homeowner will have to be on the hook. We'll talk about that here in a second, but we do have another caller. Good morning, caller, and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Yes. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, just a quick question.
Sure.
Suppose I just say walking on the street or walking on the road, and a limb or a coconut to drop on the tree and injure me. Yeah, what would happen in that situation?
So you're walking.
I know if it's like on a premises of someone,
yeah,
the person would probably be liable, like if a coconut drop or a limb drop, and if you're at a premises of someone, in the yard or something. Or
so if you're just walking on the road and something happens to you, you're saying who's responsible for that?
Right, like if specifically, like if a limb drop on you or something, a coconut or something drop on you.
Okay.
If it's government land, suppose it's government land, would government be responsible for that?
Yeah, well, this is what I'm going to say. I'm sure Tiz is going to tell you that we'd probably have to find out who actually owns wherever you were walking, because it could be government land and it could be something, Tiz, that's owned by a private individual, right?
Correct. Yeah. So first thing we need to investigate is who was responsible for the upkeep of that land. And then, how was it maintained properly? So,
Mm-hmm.
If the records show that this was a property that they had a service coming, every 2 weeks or so, and everything was getting trimmed, and, a coconut that was ripe fell, I mean, it's going to be harder to prove that they were responsible. Whereas if the place is abandoned or not well kept, the argument becomes stronger that they're responsible.
Very interesting. Yes. I mean, there are some times when things might just be like an act of God.
Right.
Like you can't really, you get struck by lightning, you can't sue God.
No.
That's probably the one lawsuit you're just not going to win. There's nobody up in the heavens that you can say you're responsible for me getting struck by lightning. So you just better hope and pray that you are alive and can make a full recovery.
The other thing I would add is that if, as a person, you have to, again, be aware of your surroundings. So even like parking your car under a coconut tree, like look where you're parking and make sure, because you're going to avoid a potential accident. And yes, sometimes those types of claims are covered by your car insurance. But, if you get hurt, that's going to be trickier.
Very good. Some interesting questions. 936 Bobo is the telephone number. If you've got a question for Tiz, feel free to give her a call. Injuries caused by unexpected changes in floor level. Oh gosh, I see this all the time.
Yes.
Where you walk into a store and they've like either added on or they built a step into it and you have to step down. And a lot of times you don't see that step down and there's no notice, like watch your step. Next thing you know, you fall a couple inches and you twist and break your ankle.
Yes. Super common. And again, there's things that the store could do to mark it up, to, color it with different paint, put signs, all kinds of things to kind of warn people of that different height in the flooring. In that particular photo that you're showing looks like the concrete is raised. And so people are walking around barefoot or in flip-flops near a pool and could easily get their toes, stuck on that higher piece of brick and fall and hurt themselves, break their teeth and slam their jaw, like very dangerous. So keep on top of these things as a property owner and see what can be done to fix these things before anything happens.
Very good. Good morning to Miss Emma. Damien says, how would you document that or prove that new trick for scammers? I don't know which thing he's talking about, prove what exactly, but let's talk generally speaking about how do you document like injuries and so forth?
I think there's a slide coming up on that specific topic.
Okay. We do have a caller. Let's just grab this caller. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I just sort of a general question in regards to, I guess, Tiz or Recover's experience locally in the last little while. We know that on the other side of the insurance coin, we've got a bit of an epidemic with unlicensed, uninsured drivers that I'm sure would cause problems. I'm wondering what the experience is locally, the grape incident aside, if you will, because I know a store like of that nature would be sufficiently covered. But as far as, the example the guy gave before, where he's like, I got this guy coming to paint some stuff at my house, I can guarantee that would fall on the homeowner. But if it was, just generally dealing, like even with local contractors and things like that, like we're very trusting in that. We just assume that these people have, that they're going to take care of themselves and that they're properly back with the right kind of coverage. But what has the local experience been like with these type of suits for the uneven floor and for the slip and fall? And are the companies themselves actually insured properly? Are the strata corporations insured properly? That sort of thing. I'm going to hang up and just listen to the answer. I'm just curious about what the experience is like locally I mean, I'm a tenant. I have a tenant insurance policy. I'm in a building, so my landlord in the strata has a policy. I don't know what that policy is like, but it exists so that I don't have to have it because I just live on the inside and I'm just a tenant. But I just want to hang up and listen.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So it's important. I think the crux of what the caller is getting to, Tiz, is that it's really important for people to make sure, because things happen, accidents happen, slip and falls happen, but you've got to make sure that you have adequate protection in place. So insurance is important. Don't be underinsured. Make sure that you're in contact with your insurance company on a regular basis, especially for your homeowner's policy. But as part of any home insurance policy, you also get a liability policy. I think most of them have to be at least like $500,000 plus that they will cover for injuries. So make sure that you have, all of those things in place, because you can even have someone working for you, like a domestic worker at home. They slip and fall and get hurt, and somebody's got to pay those bills, right?
So to answer the previous caller's question, generally, what our experience has been is that in the larger companies and places of work and condo stratas and all that, they are generally covered with adequate insurance. It's the mom and pop shops or the smaller businesses that may not have proper insurance coverage or insurance coverage at all. And that's unfortunate, because the remedy is to go after them personally, especially if the business is in their name. So that was a great question. And also with respect to uninsured drivers, unfortunately we see that too often, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves, because other than when you renew your license at the DVL, and they check that, or when you transfer a car into your name and they check for that insurance, there's no other proper checks and balances to make sure that everyone driving a car out there is insured. And it's a really sad situation, because if that person who's uninsured causes an accident or a death or anything like that, it's really tricky. And we would have to go after these people personally, which is very hard, especially if they don't have assets, or if they're here on a short work permit and they end up leaving. The person who's injured really gets the short end of the stick in those situations, and it's heartbreaking. And we need the government to do more. We need to step up with respect to insurance, and even the basic policies that are third party coverage only, and they're $1 million. If you cause a catastrophic accident and someone is in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, that $1 million doesn't cover anything at all. When you consider the future care costs that they are going to have to incur with having assistance for everything going forward. So it's also a good idea just looking at your own car accident policy, insurance policies, to see if you can get like a higher level of coverage, so that you're not exposing yourself for people to go after you if you cause those types of severe injuries.
Wow. Okay. Some great questions. You guys are really thinking hard. Injuries caused by poorly lit areas. Oh, this is a good one too. Thinking of like stratas, apartment complexes. Sometimes you're walking around them at night and you really can't see where you're going.
Yeah. So lighting is really key, especially at night. And, I've been walking through stratas where they have speed bumps every certain amount of feet apart from each other, and if it's dark you don't see and you easily trip. So make sure that properties are well lit, or if the lighting, for example, the light bulb's out or it needs to get fixed, that property maintenance is done on a regular basis to ensure that there's always adequate lighting.
And for people who live in apartment complexes, you're on your strata boards. Sometimes you think, oh, I can handle all this stuff myself. We don't need a strata management company. These are things that you want to make sure that it is being handled properly. Your insurance is paid up and it's up to date, not just what's adequate for any, damage that you might have to the property, but also in the event that there's some sort of a claim against your liability insurance policy. That aspect of it, make sure your lighting is up to par, make sure you've got adequate security in place at your facility and so forth as well. So here's another really, really interesting one. Injuries caused from a swimming pool accident. Unfortunately, over the years, we've heard of people, going in pools and drowning or losing their lives or getting hurt on different pool equipment. So this is another really important one as well, because we live in a beautiful island. A lot of people have pools.
Yes. And like the worst case scenario in this type of accident is, a little child unsupervised, just walking into the pool and not knowing how to swim. So again, very fact specific. You'll see in that photo specifically, there's a fencing around it. That's a really good idea to keep little kids out. But there's all kinds of things that could happen near a pool. And again, as property owners, we have to make sure that the premises is as safe as possible, and that parents are always watching their kids or with them in the pool. A lot of stratas have pool rules. If you're not following those rules and something happens, you will be held responsible as well. So all very important things to consider.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. We got a question here from Kimaria. It says, what happens, or suppose you open the door of a business place and it burst open your toe, who's responsible? So I guess the door hit their toe. Well, I guess it depends on why the door hit the toe. I mean, it sounds like you could be at fault for probably not paying attention to how you open the door and moving your foot out of the way. But if there was, like, say, something attached to the bottom of the door, like an extra lip or something that made that door unique and different, could potentially be, the person's fault. If there was maybe the door was damaged or something and that caused it to hit your toe. But generally speaking, sometimes you're responsible for your own injuries. So, if you open a door too quickly, whatever, and knock yourself out with the door, then that might just be your fault. Mm-hmm. So, and you can't sue yourself, by the way. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning. I have a question about an emotional fall. If someone intentionally infects you with, say, HIV, for example, is that a criminal offense?
In most jurisdictions, yes. She's not a criminal lawyer, but I can tell you in most jurisdictions it is.
Well, what my question is getting at is in Cayman, is that a criminal offense?
It probably, I don't know if they have a specific offense for that, but they would extend it to they would extend it under one of the common law arms, I'm sure of it, because it's already been done in other UK-based jurisdictions. So it's not far-fetched to have it done here.
What about the contributory negligence element in relation to such a situation? How do you avoid that? What are the considerations?
Oh, so in other words, because you didn't use protection with the person?
Or
maybe you're at fault?
What specifically would one need to do in order to avoid being considered contributing to your situation? Because in those situations, you're not thinking, okay, this person is going to maliciously harm me.
Yes.
But what if they
That's
do?
Interesting.
And you're not really thinking about it. Like, how do you avoid being a victim like that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is probably outside the scope of TIS.
Yeah. Just off the top of my head, I can say, like,
wait a minute. We said the same thing at the same time. What do you say when you say that? You say jinx or is it touche? No, is it jinx? There's another word for it. Yes, but we were both saying off the top of my head.
off the top of your head, things you can do is if you're in a relationship with this person or whatnot, and you're considering doing that, you can ask them. You can get both of you tested to make sure you're both clean before you start doing that type of stuff. I'm not. This is totally off topic of this show.
Yes, but you know what, Tiz? There is a case. I mean, this is just the bizarre side of law, because sometimes there are cases that are super bizarre. But there was a case recently, like a couple months ago, maybe late last year, where an insurance company, a judge found that an insurance company was going to be held liable to pay damages to a woman who caught an STD in the car. So the car insurance company had to pay it. Did you hear that case?
I didn't hear that case.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna have to look that up. That is super interesting.
Hold on. I'm going to look this up. I think we covered it.
Here on Island?
Sorry?
Did it happen here on Island?
No. This was in the US, of course.
Oh, US.
Only in America.
Yeah.
So a woman who claims that she got an STD from a vehicle was awarded $5.2 million.
Come on.
That's Americans for you. I think we hold on, let me see if I can find this. I think we may have covered it as well, because it was like all over the news. And it's just one of those bizarre stories where you go, huh? What? Oh my gosh. I think I'm going to share this. Yeah, it's really weird. It's very, very strange.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're really bizarre stories like this. Here was another one of a woman who caught an STD after a janitor put his privates in a water bottle. So if you're that janitor's employer, you know, you might have some answering to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty crazy. But yeah, this was, I'll send you this, Tiz, because it's just one of those really bizarre. But again, it turns on certain very, very specific facts, right?
Yes.
So car insurance company has to pay $5.2 million to a woman who claims that she caught a sexually transmitted infection in a Hyundai Genesis. I don't know why the make of the car matters, but she was from Missouri, and she said that her ex-boyfriend infected her in this vehicle. And so Geico General Insurance Company, the court found, had to pay.
$5 million.
Did not disclose his infection.
Must have been a really good policy.
Yeah, seriously. So I'll send you this because it is very, very interesting.
Yes.
All right. Some bizarre things. Scott says, I don't think that's going to be covered under your home owner's policy. Well, in the US, they found that it would be covered under the car insurance policy because that's where the incident took part.
It really depends on the actual policy itself. That's a really important part to talk about, because every homeowner policy, auto insurance policy, whatever insurance policy, they're all different. So you have to make sure that you understand all the clauses in it before you actually sign up and pay those premiums to make sure you're covered.
What do you say to people who 99.999% of people never read their policy? What do you say to them?
You know, too little, too late. After when something happens and you are not covered, you can't say, well, I didn't know. I didn't have coverage, because the onus is on you to read your policy and make sure and ask questions to your insurance company to make sure that you know exactly what's covered and what's not. Because you can also add on to your policies, right? So you have your basic policy, and then you can add on certain things. Then there's exclusions. So it's really in your best interest, in your own best interest, to read your policy and ask questions and make sure you understand everything before you sign up.
So Damien says that some of these doors are set to close quickly and hit your toe or heel. So that's interesting. Damien says many insurance companies do not support liability insurance for certain businesses also. Well, we heard that from CUC yesterday. They can't get poles insured. So yeah, it's the risk involved in particular types of businesses. So you've got to make sure that you know, probably before you even try to start up a business, what coverage you can get. Patricia says government does all they can do, I believe, and that is RCIPS setting up monthly or random roadblocks for vehicle checks. One thing done in the US is insurance companies report to the Department of Motor. I think what Tiz was actually talking about was that there is an imbalance with insurance companies basically being able to deny claims for any and everything versus what would be reasonable in other jurisdictions. So the consumer doesn't have sufficient protection even from their own insurance companies that they may be paying on a policy for many, many years. And then the second they try to make a claim on that policy, the insurance companies reject it for the littlest of things, and they find all kind of loopholes. Maybe, Tiz, one day we could do a show on, from a legislative perspective, in your opinion, being someone on the ground every day, what are some of the changes that could or should be made?
Definitely.
All right. So injury caused at a commercial property. How is that different than, if they're injured at your place of residence? Does it really matter?
So yeah, because look, if you're looking at this photo that's on the screen right now, it's one of those floor polishing machines. Mm-hmm. And, those machines have different settings. So if whoever's using that machine is not trained properly and they put it on a really high setting and it causes the floor to have this slippery sheen to it and people start falling everywhere, then there's going to be claims made because that wasn't the safest way to buff and polish the floors, right? Mm-hmm. So that's different than in your own house. You wouldn't be doing that type of floor maintenance in your house. You would mop, you would vacuum.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Very good. Really gets you. These sessions really get you to think about a lot of different things. Let's see. Dean says, if someone's personal data is stolen from a company's data system, like someone's financial health and personal address, etc., causing grief and pain and suffering, can you file a lawsuit, and who and how successful will it be? So in other words, say you work for an organization that doesn't have adequate protections in place to protect, customer data, and someone breaches that, could you potentially sue them for that breach?
I think the answer is yes. And again, it's very fact specific. So if it's a large organization, if it's a bank, if it's a government, it depends on what their data protection laws say in each place that they have that. So if it's here, if it's on island, if it's in the States, it's all different. Lots of investigation go into these claims to really get all those minute details before we can give an opinion.
Mm-hmm. Michael says that I read my wife's car policy and realized that I'm covered until I reach 75 years of age. Afterwards, to be insured, I have to get a medical test done, and I'm 2 years away. So this is another good example of why you want to know what your policy says and what restrictions are in place, if any. And a lot of vehicular policies, for example, only cover drivers 25 and over. So if you have a younger person in your household, you want to make sure that you get a policy that's going to cover them. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's start to wrap up. So just some things here, Tiz, that are good to keep in mind.
Yeah, so just because you're injured on someone else's property, it doesn't automatically mean that the person is the property owner is going to be responsible. You have to show that the owner knew or should have known about a hazardous condition, and he or she or they or it failed to correct it, right? And then remember, there's always contributory negligence that could be assigned to the injured party for not taking steps to also prevent the injury or making the injury worse than it could have been. For example, if you're not wearing the proper footwear, that would be one of the easiest examples of that. And this is the slide that answers the other caller's question, what to do after an accident. So photograph the area right away if you can. Everyone has their phones on them. So take out your phone, take a photo. If there was water on the floor, take a photo of the water. Or if it's a liquid substance, maybe it's not water, maybe it's soap, maybe it's a cleaning agent. Very important to get those details documented. If there's witnesses that saw you fall, then you should get their contact details, because we can always go back and reach them and get them to give us a statement that would support your version of what happened. And that goes to liability. There's CCTV footage everywhere in these days. So we can also request that from the property owner or from the government, depending if it happened outside or not. And we can try to recreate what happened watching the footage. So that's another important thing. And then going to the doctor, right? So some people fall and they get hurt and they just, go home. They don't report it. They go home and weeks later, they're like not getting better, and they realize, oh darn, I'm hurt now, and who's going to pay for my medical bills? And I never reported this, and I never went to the doctor right away. Those types of situations make it harder for us as lawyers to prove your claim, because too much time passes between the incident and you getting medical attention. So make sure you document that as well with your doctor. And then lastly, contact an attorney. We're always here. We give out free consultations or a phone call away. If you're not sure, if you have a question, you can always call us, and we'd be happy to hear what happened to you and give you a preliminary advice on your specific situation.
Amazing. Okay. All right. Very, very good. And someone's asking in WhatsApp about the statute of limitations. So it's probably a good thing to remind people that you can't wait 20 years and sue.
No, I think if you go to the next slide.
Okay.
Da, 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 da. 3 years.
3 years. Oh my gosh. I was thinking it was 7. For 3 years for personal injury.
Yes, 3 years. And we don't, as a firm, our policy is not to wait the 3 years. We like to put companies on notice right away and find out if they have insurance right away and get the claim going. So we do not wait 3 years to bring a claim in the courts. But yes, you have 3 years.
And already people are asking for your number. So let's make sure that people know how to reach you.
So it's 924-9999. That's a direct office line. And also on WhatsApp, that's a WhatsApp number as well. So if you don't have access to a telephone, you can message us on Wi-Fi as well. We will always reach back out to you and offer you a meeting or even a phone call. You can reach us anytime.
Beautiful. All right. So that's our contact number, folks. 924-9999. Recover Personal Injury Attorneys. Let's just run down when people think of personal injury. Sometimes they're very, very limited. They're only thinking of car accidents. Now we know slip and falls. What else falls under this general umbrella of personal injury?
Accidents at work, dog bites, medical negligence. That's a whole different other show, but yes. What else? Falls.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tiz, thank you so much as always for coming on the program. You're a real hit. Everyone always has lots of questions for you and lots of commentary. So we'll see Tiz next month, or how long are you going to be off on holiday for?
I will see you at the end of August.
The end of August. Okay. All right. Beautiful. All right. Well, Tiz, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And have a good trip. Have a good vacation.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All righty.
Recover Personal Injury Attorneys, helping injured people get what they deserve. Did you know that insurance companies have lawyers that represent their interests? Before signing and accepting any settlement, know your rights. Call us today for a free consultation at 924-9999. That's 924-9999. Recover. Your personal injury attorneys are on standby to assist.